Hey there, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Foul Territory. I'm your host, Mike Smith. You know, it's playoff time once again for the Metro League, and as frequent podcast contributor Ron Darling said last season, it truly is the most wonderful time of the year. So with postseason baseball just 2 days away, we're going to get into it here. We're going to talk about first-round AA playoff matchups. We're going to break them down for you and hopefully have a good time doing so. Now, I know a lot of you guys were hoping to hear Ron Darling once again on these airwaves, but unfortunately, Ron can't make it tonight. I talked with Ron the other day, and he's sorry. He's been a little bit absent this season. Apparently, Ron got laid off around May, so he got a new job, actually kind of a dream job for him. He's been following REO Speedwagon on their summer tour. He's a roadie for them. He's a lifelong fan of the band, and I think tonight he's somewhere, I think it's Concord, California. So with the time difference and the show tonight, he just didn't have time to come on, but he assured me that he hopes to be back on the airwaves once a few teams have been culled from this playoff list, and I see that the Speedwagon is making a stop in Hartford around August 15th or so hopefully we'll have him on then to discuss what might be the semifinals of the divisional round. So even though we don't have the popular and opinionated Ron Darling on tonight, we're going to keep pushing and we're going to roll with the changes as we welcome on our first guest, and our only guest tonight, the manager of the Cross-Bronx Rockies, Christen Colon. So, CC, before we get started here talking about the playoffs, it's been brought to my attention that you've actually taken over now, or you will be taking over in the fall as the new commissioner of the Metro League. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. It is.
I just want to say, congratulations on the appointment. I think, everyone who knows you knows that you love this league and you're going to do a great job. So, just wanted to kind of make that announcement out here if people hadn't seen it. Christen Colon, new commissioner of the Metro League, starting in the fall. Let's welcome him aboard. So, now back to the matter at hand here. We got the playoffs coming up. We got, about 16 teams here. I think it's their time to fly. Starting in my neck of the woods, what have you seen so far from how many teams have you played from our division?
We played the Mud Hens, your guys, the Bandits, and I think that's it.
Well, I think you had the Nationals too, correct?
Oh yeah. You're right. That's when Jonathan Lobea pitched. Yeah.
Yeah. So I I haven't done any of the math, but I noticed people talking about it. I think that the Bronx Manhattan division kind of got the better of the interleague series here. What was your takeaway from interleague play this year?
It was. I'm not sure because we caught the Nationals when they were on a relative roll compared to how they finished out the season. Mm-hmm. At the time that we played them, at the time it was pretty much BQE and the Nassau Yankees and then the field.
Yeah.
But as the season played out, with the fluctuations with some teams and their performance, whether it be attendance or just guys getting injured, I don't know because I don't know Brooklyn Queens as vividly as I do Bronx Man. But I was very impressed actually. Your guys' pitching is outstanding. Guys throw strikes. It makes sense to me why you guys are constantly at the top of your division each year.
Well, I think the other thing that we've seen once again in the Brooklyn Queens division where we are going to start tonight, there's not a whole lot separating your top teams from your bottom teams. Everyone's kind of bunched up right there. And I would say probably we'll start with the 1-8 matchup, which is my Mud Hens against the Elm Jack Dodgers. Dodgers playing their first year in AA. They had some growing pains this year. They had some attendance issues, but they've showed that when they've had a full team out there. They beat the defending champions in the Storm. They won a crazy 10-9 game against the Baisley Pirates. I'm not going into this matchup thinking that hey, we're going to roll over these guys. I'm a little bit worried about this 1-8 matchup here. What are your thoughts?
Every Bronx Manhattan team that's played Elm Jack has absolutely destroyed them. Mm-hmm. So, I haven't gotten a chance to see them, but just off of how my Fiats are formed against them and having played your team, personally, I wouldn't be that concerned, but I wouldn't overlook them either. They are a champion, and they have experienced guys, and in a short series, anything can happen, especially, you don't know what you're going to get from legal with, the potential rust he may have.
Well, yeah, I mean, our ace has been off for about a month studying for the bar, and I heard there were some problems with the bar exam last couple days and inputting the scores with the software. So hopefully everything's all right with that, and we have them for the weekend. But yeah, I mean, these are things that I think any manager is kind of concerned with going into a matchup. But I definitely know that my guys are looking forward to this. I mean, we've never beat a team from Elm Jack in the playoffs. I remember our first year in the league, we lost to the Elm Jack Blue Jays. 3 years ago, maybe it was, the Elm Jack Cardinals knocked us out of the playoffs. Now, we have a lot of the guys that did some damage against us, and Neil Stuber and Bobby Gorvetzi, and they're now playing for the Hens. But this Dodgers team still has some of those core members with Morgan and Shepard. And so we're definitely not overlooking these guys at all, and we'd like to give them a little bit of payback for our first couple of years in the league. Moving down to the 2-7 matchup, you got a really good rivalry thing between the Baisley Pirates and last year's defending champion, the Storm. Now, I don't want to say that Baisley came into last season when the Storm knocked them off in the first round. I don't want to say that they were overconfident, but you got to think that coming in this year, playing the same team in the first round, these guys got to be looking for revenge, right?
Oh, absolutely. I would agree with that statement with regard to the confidence of the Baisley Pirates last season. I mean, they were, 19-6? They were the overall number one seed in the league.
I mean, they really had a tremendous run this year. I mean, they didn't finish out the season on a high note this year, but they played some good ball. But, you do have to think that last year, that weighed on them. Because even coming in this year, they said, we don't care about the 1 seed. It was all about doing well in the playoffs. And, personally, I think that they do have the pitching to match up with anybody. They got a lot of quality arms out there. But with the Storm, I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend that, Baisley on the forum has said stuff like they don't know if all the Storm guys are qualified for the playoffs. I think a lot of these guys might be. With a full squad, how much of an edge do you give the returning champions in any sort of series?
Before I touch upon that, this everyone keeps on. I see it in the threads. I see it on Facebook. If we have a full squad, I mean, how often throughout the course of the year do you consistently get what this quote unquote full squad? Because I actually came across it with the topic regarding upsets in the first round, and Matt Ortiz had mentioned if he'll take the Bears over the Rockies if the Bears have a full squad. In that particular instance, I find it a little odd because the Bears pretty much show up with the same guys every week, so I'm not quite sure if he means Ryan Smith pitches games 1, 2, and possibly 3. I don't know. But back to the Storm. They're the defending champ. I mean, you can't take that away from them. And they have the confidence that they've beaten Baisley before, and Baisley's kind of limping into the playoffs, and the Storm are only looking up. I mean, they're going to be competitive without some of the guys that are in question, but if they get those guys, it's kind of like a shot in the arm. I mean, they're going to feel even more confident.
And now,
I give them the edge big time.
Now, and one thing about the Storm, I mean, we talk about momentum going into the playoffs. I think, I could be wrong, but I think the Storm lost their last 4 games of the regular season. But those last 2 games this past weekend were very tight games with the number 1 seed in the Bronx Manhattan division in the Nassau Yankees. In that case, do you see even a doubleheader sweep? Do you see that as a positive sign for the Storm moving forward?
Actually, I didn't get a chance to look at the box score for those games, but did Pena pitch?
Yes, he pitched in, I think, a 4-3 loss, and
4-3 loss.
That was a game where Oates hit the home run.
Then in that case, yeah, I mean, Pena pitching that well against that kind of a lineup, being competitive with the Nassau Yankees like that, they're definitely trending up, whereas their counterparts are trending down. I mean, they actually, going into the playoffs on a bye week is not ideal.
No, that's definitely for sure. I mean, but what can you do? The schedule is the schedule. So, hopefully Baisley comes out swinging, and I know for a fact that those guys would love to avenge a loss. You know, and now we get to a team that we touched on a little bit earlier in that 3-6 matchup. You got the Brooklyn Bandits against the BQE Nationals. Now, these two teams split 2 doubleheaders during the course of the season, but it seems like, you know, also you mentioned your quote-unquote full team. When the Nationals have their full team, that's a scary, scary squad.
Yeah, if they had their full team the whole season, they'd probably have the same record as the Nassau Yankees.
So, you know, going in there, I mean, you know, obviously we don't know who's going to show up. You've played both teams. What are your thoughts kind of on the style of play of each of those squads?
I'll give the Nationals have a better lineup, top to bottom, easily. But the Bandits run, man. They've got some guys. They've got legs. I know Cap, Bono, and I forget the leadoff hitter. DeVito, yeah. Those guys fly, man. I mean, if they can get on base, that's pretty much the Bandits' chance. If you could keep those 3 at bay, you can manage through their lineup. Whereas BQE, I mean, if you pay too much attention to Arsenio Cardona, you might get burned by Tamina or Mason Colon, who's actually hitting really well. He also plays in WV and the Hawks. He hit a walk-off home run in their playoff game, so he's getting hot now. They've got multiple weapons, and I haven't even touched upon their 2 MVP candidates, Roberto and Frank.
Well, yeah, I mean, those guys are just having tremendous seasons this year. Frank's hitting, I mean, at least until a couple weeks ago, he was hitting above 500, which is definitely a feat in this league.
Yeah, agreed. I'm just not sure what the starting pitching is looking like. A lot of their guys are kind of dead red, and Kemp, you know, he wrinkles in a curveball. He throws as Antonio Cardona would say, he throws ridiculously slow. And most guys would empathize and have an issue with staying back. And you could find yourself 3, 4, 5 innings into the game, like, oh, crap. Like, now we're in a ball game. And then that's when it gets tough.
And if you're like the Bandits and, you know, you can keep up that pressure on the base paths, I mean, as long as you can kind of keep them from blowing it open early, if you can stay with them late, because the Bandits also have a pretty good closer in Vankerhove, who's really, you know, the past couple of years has been serving mostly in a relief role and doing a good job. So, you know, I don't think this series is yet a definite Nationals win. I expect some fireworks here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just one of those opponents where sometimes, like in boxing, styles make fights. Well, you know, this is a kind of a matchup. When I was looking at the feeds, if I'm BQE, I probably don't want to see the Bandits because for whatever reason they match up well, and you know, it's evident in the fact that they split on the season.
Yeah, and that you know, brings us to our last Brooklyn Queens matchup, and you know, this one is kind of heated up on the forums the last couple days. You know, we got a couple guys being some tough guys out there. Seems like there's a little bit of bad blood between the Rainmakers and the Proletariats, who, you know, like the Nationals and Bandits, they've also split their season, I think. You know, but the big question for me in this game, or this series, is whether or not Taylor Wood is going to pitch. You know, this is a guy who probably stuff-wise is the most dominant pitcher over on, you know, in our division. I don't think he's thrown since the Beers game in June. If he pitches, how much of a difference will he make in kind of flipping the balance of power there between these two pretty evenly matched squads?
If he pitches, I would take the Rainmakers in a sweep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just he will effectively win the game that he pitches because they don't have anyone to match. Now, the one person I think could match is a Wagenberger,
yep.
But he's had, I don't know if it's a statistical anomaly, but based on the stats, he's had quite the down year.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we faced him once, and he came in relief against us another time. And, you know, his stuff is still good. I think at times he's struggled with location this year. But if Wood doesn't pitch, he's got a chance to kind of shut down a really good Rainmakers lineup if he's on. But, you know, I don't think we should forget about guys like Nick Travellino, who has had just an absolutely remarkable year. You know, his record doesn't necessarily show it. He's 5-5, but He's got an ERA in the low ones. He's really been tremendous. I think that if Wood doesn't pitch, a Travelino-Wagenberger Game 1 matchup could really be a kind of an exciting pitcher's duel for two very different style teams.
Granted, Wagenberger has great stuff. Last year when he was pitching well, the Rainmakers hit him well. They hit him hard. So,
well, yeah,
I mean,
the Rainmakers have a tremendous offense. They got a new pickup in this kid, Tony Bandanza, who, the kid can rake. And between him and Warner and Cardona and Wood, Brad Bridges, I mean, they've got guys that can hit up and down the lineup. And, I think that it's going to be tough for the Proles pitching staff, which is a pretty good pitching staff. It's going to be tough for them to hold them off for 3 games. So, it would seem to me that the Proles' best bet here is that Wood doesn't pitch and they can sweep. Because otherwise, if it goes to 3 games, it becomes a slugfest. And I think that the Rainmakers win a slugfest, 9 times out of 10. I mean, I would say that, like you said, styles make fights. And the Proles, assuming they don't have to go to the bullpen, they've got 3 capable starters in Wagenberger, Slow, and who's the last one I'm thinking of? Who was that?
Bennett Pepping or Pepping?
Yeah, Bennett Pepping. But, a guy like Slow, I feel, might fare better against the Rainmakers just because he's kind of a curveball pitcher. Him and Nick Freeman both are off-speed guys, whereas Pepping relies more on a fastball. So that could present some problems for him. But, this is another series where I think, anything can happen, and a lot of it hinges on Wood.
Yeah. If I'm going to pick one, I'm going to go with the Rainmakers, but I think the Rainmakers have an opportunity this season to do what the Storm did last season based on their past, because they actually match up fairly well with the Proletariat, and I assume you guys will win your first-round matchup, and they actually are pretty competitive against you guys.
Yeah, we've had 4 games, we've split them, and they've been different style of games too, so, I don't think we, are looking past the Dodgers, but I don't want to see either the Proles or the Rainmakers in the second round, but unfortunately, if we win, we're going to have to. So, now let's switch gears and talk about your neck of the woods. And I guess we'll start with the play-in game. You got All Out versus the Tigers Friday night at Taft. It seems the way that All Out has played in the second half of the season, especially late, you got to have them as the favorites in the playoff game, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But now, I mean, here's the question for me. I mean, with the emergence of Perez as really he's done great since he's come back from injury. He's their second starter. Do you hold back your ace in Eddie Dennis in the hopes that he'll pitch well against the Nassau Yankees if you win, or do you throw him in that play-in game just to make sure that you get to a series with the Yankees?
Well, it depends who shows up for All Out, because they have a bunch of talent on that roster. Mm-hmm. And what most people may not realize is Ariel Ureña, their center fielder, he pitches. If I was Chris Cancel, I'd take a shot throwing him for 1 to 3 innings and gauge where the game is at that point, because he's more than capable of shutting down that Tigers lineup.
Now, obviously, the Tigers lineup is not one of the best offenses in the Metro League right now. What will they have to do if they want to win this play-in game and live to play another day on Saturday?
If they want to win this play-in game, their only option is to pitch Joe Carey, and just for the sake of getting to play 2 more games, because that's about all they're going to play if they get past All Out. They'll get swept by Nassau fairly easy. I mean, if they go with any of their other pitchers, you just look through past box scores, and they're not going to be able to put up enough runs to support their performances. I mean, they've got to win something like 5-4, 4-3, because they're not going to put up more than 5 runs. I highly doubt that.
So, which brings us to the winner of the play-in game taking on the overall number 1 seed in the Nassau Yankees. Obviously, these guys have kind of been world beaters this year. They got a big roster. They're deep. They can hit. They've got a ton of pitching. Can either of these teams knock off the Yankees in the first round?
All Out has a chance. Tigers, no way. Not happening. All Out would have to sweep, though.
Mm-hmm.
The only way. And, it's... Okay, sure, you have to sweep, but then you're talking about beating Victor Padilla and Jonathan Gonzalez. That's probably not ever going to happen. Unless you get fall 2012 Dennis mowing guys down, you salvage a split, and then anything can happen in Game 3, but they still have Checo, they have Chris Rivera, they have so many other pitchers that they're perfectly comfortable splitting and going to a third game. They have that advantage in every series they're going to be playing.
And it seems almost unfair that the team with such deep pitching, also has the ability to put up runs like nobody else in the league. They don't even need a great pitching performance to win a game, but it seems, if they've got all their guys lined up and ready to go, they're going to get some pretty good performances.
Oh, absolutely. And, they're one of the traits of a really solid team with a deep lineup is Nassau. For example, Joey Garina, if you pay attention to Facebook, some of his teammates on other teams are, making jokes that he hasn't gotten an RBI in like 6 weeks, or he has more stolen bases than RBIs. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but he's struggling by his standards, and Alex Oates is absolutely ripping the cover off the ball. So he's picking up. You think teams will go into a match with Nassau, pay all this attention to Garina and getting him out, and then you get hurt by Oates, which is evident in the 2 game-winning home runs he's hit.
And now in the the second-seeded team, a new squad here in the Orioles, they're going to be taking on the Gotham A's.
Upset alert.
Now this is your pick for a kind of a snake line in the grass, waiting to pounce.
Absolutely. It has nothing to do with any inability on the part of the Bronx Orioles.
So what is it about the Gotham A's that makes you believe they're going to have the ability to pull off an upset here?
They've played, I think, 3 times. In 2 of those games, if the A's had played a perfect game, which is to say without error, mm-hmm. they would have won the 2 games pitched by Jason Valentin. Jason Valentin has been very effective against the Orioles lineup. When they lost the 9-inning game, they were winning 2-0 going into the 8th. We're playing 7-inning games in the playoffs. So for 7 innings, he shut them out. So he's shown that he can go the distance and donut them throughout the way. There goes 1 game. Now, if you get Joe Valentin, his brother, to match that, you have a real problem. If he's anything close to what he did last season, just one day, not asking him to do it 2 or 3 times, just once, and it just happens to be when they're playing the Orioles, I could see where they'd upset them. But it's not really an upset because the Valentin brothers are good arms. And they just, as a team, the A's have underperformed. They're not a true 7. I think if you got consistent performance out of Joe Valentin, the A's would have been a 4 or 5 seed.
So now, I mean, obviously you guys have the best hitter in the league in Brian White, but there has been a guy on the Orioles who's impressed me a lot this year, and that's Tommy Liang. This kid just hits, man. I think he's definitely going to be a tough out, no matter how well the Valentin brothers are pitching.
Oh, yes. Actually, that's the younger one, correct? He plays center
I believe
field?
so, yeah.
If it's the leadoff hitter, in the games I've seen with the A's and Orioles, he's actually hit Jason hard. Now, the statistics may not show it because he probably only has a few hits, but he squares him up consistently. So you're 100% right on with that one. And ever since the addition of him, his brother, they've really drastically changed that lineup. It's much longer. It's right on par with Nassau for sure.
So that brings us to the 3-6 matchup. You got the Titans and the Giants. You got a lot of former Express players on both sides. Do you think that familiarity with each other, does that play into this series at all?
in the sense of getting into the mindset of a playoff game where it's win or go home and having the ability to kind of like genuinely dislike your opponent, you lose some of that there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that does for some players. Some guys can block that out where, we're friends after the final out. But you know how it is when guys get on base and they start shooting the shit, and you lose some of that. So I think it definitely does play into the competitive landscape with regard to like the intensity you would have where if you didn't like your opponent.
So now, I mean, you know both these teams. What are your thoughts on the series? Do the Titans win as a 3 seed, or do the Giants give them a run for their money?
Adrian Santiago beat Nassau Yankees 3-2.
Mm-hmm.
He's a veteran pitcher. He's very crafty, so they can definitely get a game from him. The only problem is they can't hit with the Titans. The Titans 1 through 6 is as strong as any other 1 through 6 in the league. And I'm not sliding the bottom of their lineup, but there's a clear distinction between the caliber of hitters from the top and the bottom. Their bottom of the lineup guys they're scrappy, annoying bottom of the lineup hitters. But you can't overlook them because Clement Thompson, who hits last, burned the Rainmakers in their series with the Titans. So you can't overlook that. But I don't know. It's just weird. The Giants find ways to win games. I mean, they've pretty much split throughout the year. So I think we'll see a third game in this series for sure. I don't think either team will sweep.
Now, in a third game, who gets that edge? Because, I mean, we've only played the Giants once, in the interleague play. We saw Santiago and we saw Garrett. Do they have a capable third starter? And, who would probably start that third game for the Titans then?
You could see a scenario where it's Angel Batanzas against the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
After Guerra and Santiago, Oldfield. Oldfield will probably start Game 3. And that's actually kind of dangerous. Because a lot of the good hitting teams find it very frustrating to face him. I mean, you're either way out in front or, ripping the cover off the ball. There's no in between. He's either going to be effective or I get killed.
So I got you. So, I mean, that could be a very interesting series to watching it go to that Game 3 and seeing who takes them out. Because I know that Oldfield the past couple years hasn't pitched a ton, but, he's shown in the past that, he was their ace a couple years ago. So, things could get a little sticky for the Titans there, I got to say. But that brings us to what might be the best series in your division, and that's you guys against the Beers. For my money, you've got the best hitter in the league in Brian White, and he's going to be going against the best pitcher in the league, in my mind, in Ryan Smith. That's got to be an exciting matchup for you as a manager.
Oh, absolutely. My only thing is not that I'm concerned about it because Brian's a high IQ ball player, but not to get into a mindset where he's forcing the issue. Now, granted, Ryan Smith doesn't issue many walks, barely does, but take him where you can get him, and let Calvin do what he's supposed to do and protect him.
No,
that's one thing.
I hear you, and one of the things that makes this matchup intriguing for me is the Beers have a pretty talented pitching staff. You guys hit them pretty well the second game you played them, getting to Turnacek. And you guys are probably one of the best offenses that we've seen this year. So it's kind of that clash there. How do you see this playing out?
Well, 9 times out of 10 games that Ryan Smith pitches in, he wins.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm anticipating a 3-game series. The lineup that the Beers put out doesn't quite support Ryan sufficiently. He's lost 2 games this year, 1-0. I mean, he should be undefeated. So we know that if we can keep it close, he's not gonna get the run support that he may need. If we put up 2 runs early, you should win that game. So we will be. I will be mindful of that. I mean, I have a certain game plan set for that. That way, I try to forecast how I think a game will play out when I plan for it. Because, as a manager, a lot of times, sometimes these situations, over the course of a game, things happen really fast. Mm-hmm. And you make a decision, and then when you think about it later, you're like, damn, I could have done this or that. So, I mean, any good, the good managers in the league, when they forecast, it allows you to slow things down and kind of see it before it happens. So, I'm thinking about that, because you could fall into a trap where, let's say you put someone out to start a game, and before the game, you're probably going to get 3 innings out of this guy. If you get 3 innings, that's great. Take him out. Game day comes, he gets through 3 innings. And he kind of struggles a little bit to get through the third, but he gets through it. And then you start thinking, you play to the game, and you get, your vision's clouded, and, let me stretch him. Oh, you stretch him, and then bang. Shit, I shouldn't have done that. So you put that in your mind to begin with. You have that expectation. They meet or exceed what your plan was, and you stick to the plan. And that's exactly what I'm going to do.
All right. So, we've broke down all the matchups, but before you leave, just want to hit you with a little recap. First round, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Manhattan. Give me one upset.
Well, I'm going to take the A's in Bronx, man. Mm-hmm. And in Brooklyn, Queens, Brooklyn, Queens is really difficult. I would probably take, who's 3-6?
3-6 is the Nationals Bandits.
No, the Nationals are coming out strong. Oh, no. Oh, that's easy. That's not easy, but I'm going to take the Storm.
Storm over Pirates for the second year in a row.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Christian, again, congratulations. Our new commissioner, also a manager trying to do what the rest of us are doing and trying to get to the championship. Best of luck to you guys in the playoffs, and hopefully our paths will cross in late August.
Oh, that's awesome. I hope for the same too. And just the division rivalry, I'm just going to say now that the champions probably kind of come out of Bronx, man. Just saying.
But we shall see. Christen Colon, thanks again for coming on, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. So that was Christen Colon of the Cross-Bronx Rockies giving us his playoff breakdown. Now, obviously, this is just for fun. It's the playoffs, and we all know too well that anything can happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if both he and I were a little bit wrong with some of our choices today. But that's the beauty of baseball. We get to find out on Saturday. So, to every AA team out there getting ready for the playoffs, look forward to seeing you out there. Stay healthy, stay happy, and keep it between the lines.